Welcome back, friends. We are one day away from the 1 month anniversary of the launch of Sword of Convallaria. I have been having a tremendous time in the game, having lots of fun, meeting lots of people, talking with all of you. And for this video, I want to show you my roster and talk a little bit about who has been my, surprise units, who I enjoy using, and maybe some of the people that disappointed me a little bit. Not a traditional tier list, but one where you can say, hey, you know what, I've got that person in my roster, maybe I should build them too. Now, as we dive in, I do want to qualify that I have not joined the creator program as of yet, or at least I haven't been invited. I can't say I wouldn't join. And so everything I have is from a low spenders kind of perspective. I've put in about $20-ish into the game. I did buy the $1 Angel Pack. I bought the $5 Battle Pass, if you will, and actually just re-upped that the other day. And I bought the Cornucopia track. So those are the things that I've invested in. I've not done the selector yet, haven't done any additional, summon packages or anything like that. I have been pretty lucky, so my pull rates are pretty good, but overall, I've not pulled on all the banners. And so what I have outside of what I, re-rolled my account for could be similar to what you have. Obviously, we'll have some differences here and there. And a lot of my key stuff has really come from things like the Voyage Memento. So let's dive into the game. And here we are. And the other thing I want to show you too is what content I've cleared, so you have an understanding of what these characters have gotten me through. So really quick, I'm actually 30 XP away from level 50. I'll hit that tonight on the daily refresh. And so this has taken me all the way to one of the most pivotal, I guess, Voyager levels as you can find in the game. And maybe I'll make a level 50 video later on. But today's topic is not so much around that. Tower of Conquest 8.2. Love this mode in particular. However, just from a time perspective, I haven't had a lot of extra time to really kind of push the limits of the tower. I do think I could easily get up at least a whole nother tier. And then after that, it does get a little bit more challenging. But 8.2 I don't feel is bad for, month one with the amount of focus and time I've had. On the voyage, the big ones here are Fool's Journey. I have cleared full starred all 8 chapters. I've done all of the hard modes through 5, and I just started kind of looking at, stages in level 6, and I think I might have done, I haven't done any in 7 and 8. They aren't time-gated events, and so I haven't had to, prioritize them over the events that we've been getting. And then for the harder stages in Crossing Worlds, on the weapon trials, I have done, let's see, all the way through level 8s. So I'll probably start thinking about level 9s once I hit that 50 mark and, kind of get some upgrades going. And on the weapon, or not weapon trials, and on the Terror residuals, I have done through level 7, which is a level 55. I still think I need the next stage for the daily, which will reset tomorrow. But honestly, like, the level 55s are not hard for my character levels at all. I'd probably be able to do the level 8s. I just haven't focused on them just yet. So that's where my account's at. Have I cleared every bit of the tower? No. Have I done the top end weapon trial? No, I have not. But for a 1 month progress, I think it's been pretty well. So let's get into characters. And like I said, I don't want to do this as a traditional tier list and say this is S tier, and this is like the tier or whatever bottom is. I think there's a lot of guides out there that do that, and they do them phenomenally. Dotato just launched a really good one, I think about a week or so ago, so go check that one out. But this is a practical guide, if you will. I'm going to tell you what units I feel do well in certain areas, what ones don't, what ones maybe I started with and have transitioned out of. So with that, let's dive right in. And to start, I'm going to do a 3-for-1. I'm going to do I intentionally pulled these characters, I invested in them, and I always expected them to be great. And those ones, to no one's surprise, are Gloria, our resident, paladin and whatnot. Great support character, does great damage, top ranking, you're going to see her on all the meta lists, and it's for good reason. Cole, I had a goal on the dual banner of pulling until I got Cole or Beryl, and it just so happened I got Cole. I actually pulled a duplicate of her later on. Cole is my master assassin. Cole is going out there, taking care of business, taking down multiple enemies at a time, and generally speaking can go through most stages unless there's some sort of a melee resistance or melee counter like one of the weapon trials. But if you have her, then you already know that she is fantastic and a great unit to build. And my third true meta over here is Etta. I definitely wanted her. I thought her kit looked interesting and fun. I love the box. It's one of my favorite moves in the game. And she has that assist type move where if someone else does a single target attack, she follows up on that. She does a magic defense down with her liquor barrel, which also reduces movement and does some damage. She has great buff potential here with damage 3, magic defense 2, move 1, and disruption. And so overall, these are units that you're going to find on most people's tier list as either the S rank tier, top tier, or whatever the tier is below that. And they're going to stay that way for quite a while. Will we get other characters that have better damage than Cole? Absolutely, that's going to happen. Will we get other great supports? For sure we are. And so these ones, just like any game, any gacha game, you're going to get other meta units coming in and out. But if you have any or all three of these, chances are you're probably already using them in their team, and you don't need me to tell you how great they are. If you're new to the game, what I will tell you though, is if you ever see a banner with Gloria or another banner with Etta, they're worth pulling for. Both of them I knew would be great. They didn't disappoint. They're absolutely great, but they're even better than I expected. And I actually have a hard time finding content that I wouldn't want to bring them into, which is a testament to just how versatile their kits are. So those are my three meta units, if you will. Like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on them. I do want to tell you a little bit about my, I'm kind of disappointed units, okay? The two legendaries I pulled while going after Gloria and going after Cole were Leonide, he's a breaker character, and Nurgle, who is a guardian, from the Hangman teams. And I wanted both of them to work. I really did. And it's not to say you can't bring them in any content, nothing like that. They were both on my team for a while I was building my rosters. But the issue is they're both outclassed pretty quickly. Leonide, I used as my soul breaker until I started building Rawia via getting her in the Voyage Memento. And I tried desperately to make something out of him. I really kind of mastered his movement mechanic. It's where you kind of go in a straight line once you hit this ability here, this charge stance. Gives you more damage. And I thought, okay, well, if I stack this damage up and I can play with this maneuvering mechanic, what can I do? Paired him with the move trait or the move command that you can do for your tactics, and kind of solved his mobility problem. But his damage just never stayed up there. And so I love the look of the character. I love the design work and the elements of that, which is part of why I really wanted to play him. But I couldn't get his damage where I wanted to. And I don't know if he's the slowest character in the game from a walking animation perspective, but my God, I would get so frustrated playing him because even holding down the button to, do 2x speed, he reminded me of my kids when they were toddlers and you're trying to get out of a grocery store and they're just hobbling along. Do-do-do-do-do. There's a squirrel. Do-do-do-do-do. There's some chips. Hey, Dad, have you seen the candy? And he just could not get somewhere fast. And so my irritation level when playing the character would skyrocket. And if I'm not having fun, I'm out. So Leonide, love your design. Sadly, you are my sad face tier, whatever you want to call that. Nurgle is possibly a good unit if in a Hanged Man team. But again, it's just one of those characters where despite my efforts to make him work, I just had characters that did things better. 9 times out of 10, I would rather have a Mytha with me than a Nurgle. The move I do like on him is the shielding move, where it's an instant support ability where you switch places with another character and you guys get physical shield. That was kind of cool. There's a couple of times I'll say that had, saved my life or whatever by, carefully planning around that. But outside of that move, didn't really do anything worthwhile. He does have a aura, which is good for the likes of like a Cole, for anyone with alacrity, and gives extra crit. But even without that aura, Cole's out there critting every 10 seconds. So, it didn't really enhance my team as much as I needed to. And so Nurgle, cool brawler looking character. Again, I love the design work in this game and he's got a cool one, but just didn't really take off for me. So another sad face if you were to make this a tier list. And I just don't really see myself pulling him off the bench unless I'm in the Hangman team and I think he might, provide something in there for me. So that's kind of my top levels, the non-surprising S tier, and my sad face tier, whatever you want to call that. So let's go into the rest of the roster. Who is it that I have found to be dominant, that I find to help clear content, that I like bringing or playing, that chances are you could have on your roster too, assuming you've done any sort of pulling? A lot of these are your epic and your silver tier units. So first, and everyone's going to get this character via Voyage Memento, is Angel. This is S tier in my opinion. She is a fantastic healer, and her kit adds so much. If you're not accustomed to using her, maybe you've got a different healer, maybe using a Nana. What I love about her is her trait. So increase, healing effect, and then after healing an ally, you give them 3 buffs. Great way to just kind of stack your team early into a mission. She's got, your typical big single target heal, but then possibly my favorite part of her is this light of healing, because it allows you to extend the range of healing. So picture an example where you have a unit and it's beyond this 2-tile reach that you would typically have for this move. You can then take light of healing and I would say daisy chain your heal across more tiles. So picture a scenario where the unit you want to heal is maybe 4 tiles away, so way too far. And so you hit a unit that's closer, and then because it's now AoE, you also hit those other targets that are further away. A lot of the times, unless I have someone super extended, I can heal my whole team or most of it in a grouping, and so everyone's getting healed and everyone's getting buffed. So from a healing perspective, which in a lot of content you want a healer, she is just great. And a fun little tip that I did not know, that I think it was maybe A Magic Joe told me, is on the tarot you can actually use Devil on her and it will supercharge her healing, because the Devil stacks are just giving you extra attack and her healing is scaling off of magic attack. So if you've got your 10 stacks of the Devil card or Devil Tarot, she's actually healing for more. So a fun little trick, and I'm sure that would work on other healers too, but it just really kind of helps juice her up. So she was is an absolutely fantastic healer. Love using her. Another surprise unit for me, and I started using this character I think in week 1, is Abyss. I like dots. I like debuff mechanics, things of that nature. And what I have found, particularly on like the weapon trials, is debuffs go a long way to helping you succeed as it gets into harder content. Earlier stages of weapons, yes, we're all just going to blow through it. You're going to face tank through it. You're just going to destroy those things. But as you start hitting 7, 8, etc., they do get harder. And so what's nice about her is she is just debuffing all the time. She's got this trait that gives a random level 1 debuff. She's got, different skills that do it. I've got her basic attack that does, no passive skills. She has this erosion that adds 2 random level 2 attribute debuffs. And she also has this cool dot, which is great in content like the tower, where you really want to stay away from units and kind of, slow bleed them out in a lot of cases. And it's life loss equal to 50% of magic attack to an AoE area, all the enemies in it, and it lasts for 2 turns. So she just has a really good kit. I also tossed on a Dark Ripple skill here, which is an AoE damage and gives no passive skills, no reaction skills. So when she's fully going, she's taking away passives, reactives, she's reducing the healing they receive, and she's debuffing like crazy. So an absolutely all-star unit. I love taking her in tower missions in particular. And so if you have her and you haven't built her yet, I would really advocate to use this character. You're just going to find so much use in so many different places for her throughout, like I said, tower and other modes. Next up for use is Nightingale. And I pulled her, I think only maybe a week or so ago when I was pulling for Edda. And she really kind of hit that, oh my God, I wish I had her the whole time category. Great unit in tower, but I also find her useful in other places where I want to control the field with things like fire. So she has a few key moves, one of which is Weapon Eroder. This is the type of damage that goes straight through defense, so it's piercing damage, and just does a percent based of the enemy's HP. Now there are some things like weapon trials where they diminish that value, but on other content like the tower, it's a good way to put a lot of damage on enemies that are typically higher level than you and outrank you, that you're going to have trouble sometimes damaging by normal means, or that you don't want to be close to because they might one-shot you. So she has that, and she also has, and this is a great combo, Burning Grenade. Again, 10% piercing damage, Doesn't sound like much, but across 15 turns in tower, it's doing what it needs to do. But it also puts burning on the tiles. And burning is also taking health away every turn, as they're walking through it. Plus it reduces how many squares a unit can move. So you're controlling how far a character's walking, you're hurting them while they're doing it, and you do a little damage to get that going to begin with. So what you can do is you drop this down, and then as they're coming up, if you're far enough away, then you throw Weapon Eroder. Depending on content, you can also run a heal. So she has a pretty decent heal. It's not the best, but it can definitely help in a clutch without you having to bring a whole second healer. And she also has a sleep in Tranquilizer. And so I'll sub out between the heal and the trank because this will just take a character out for a couple turns. So if you're trying to control the field, sometimes you just have a pesty character that you don't want to mess with. You sleep them, you go deal with something else, and then you come back and take care of them. So again, she is an absolutely great tower character. She has what you need in terms of, damage over time with those burnings on the floor. She has the Weapon Eroder for the percent-based damage, and you can take her into other content, and you're going to do absolutely fine with her. So great unit if you have her. Again, these are all ones I'm going to recommend you build if you have them. So on this row, why don't I cover the PayPal guard as some call him. I love that. So this one I sort of regret building. He's not terrible. He's really good for very specific things, and so if best, I'll put him on my situational use list. And I use him in the weapon trial where it specifically attacks the character that's furthest back from the boss itself. And he's good at that because he has a physical shield. And so I've specifically designed his build just for that trial. So he has two real moves that kind of make this work. One is Flagellant. And so after he takes damage, which he's going to take damage, he's going to get stacks of pendants, which reduces damage taken and then additionally recovers energy at the end of each turn, which allows him to use defensive stance every turn. So every turn, I basically just turn on his shield and I park him. And if he gets knocked back, I walk him back forward 2 blocks. And that's legitimately all I do. I think there's been one tower stage I brought him into because I needed someone to soak up some damage, and between his shields and buffs and everything else, he could do it. But 99% of the time, any other stage I want to tank, it's just not him. So again, not a terrible unit, and I certainly think he's useful within that particular weapon boss, but absolutely situational. I wouldn't say that he's going to be like top tier or anything, but good. He's got his use. And if you have the extra materials, you could do like I did and just throw him in a weapon trial and call it a day. Now, let's talk about the freebie Sword of Convallaria units. That group has Mytha, Rawia, Fakal, and the not free Barrel. If you have Barrel, then you've got the full kit if I'm not mistaken. But the ones that we get for free via Voyage Memento are Mytha, Rawia, and somewhere around here I have a Fakal who I haven't actually built out yet. So Mytha, this is probably all of our first tanks unless your first pull just gave you, something else like a Magnus. And she's good. She's not a bad tank. I don't think she will last the long haul. There's just too many other characters that come out that will take her place. But I do think she still has uses. And what I like about her is her versatility. She has a good wide variety of moves that you can throw onto her kit and a lot of different ways you can build her. So first of all, she has block. Block is great, takes less damage when she blocks, and I actually put her with counter, and so each turn she can block something and then take a hit at somebody, which I find does a lot for my team. There's a lot of times that extra hit is just the thing I needed to really whittle down an opponent. She has a knockback. We all know that these stages largely are built around knockback. And so I like kind of positioning her, maybe having her knock somebody off of a ledge and then standing there and taking the brunt of the damage as people come forward. She also has a, buff/heal skill. Are they the best buffs out there? No. But especially early game, it's a good little boost on your characters. They'll get replaced with attack 2s and defense 2s and such later on. But she definitely can save your life in a pinch when she's blocking and then throwing out some extra heals and things like that. You can build her different ways, of course. This is how I've just chosen to build her. And I still, at this point, will run her in teams. There's maps where I would prefer a block over something else in terms of a guardian. And there's definitely plenty of occasions to use her to knock stuff off of, tower maps and things like that. So all around, I would say she's kind of a middle of the road tank. You're going to have use for her. I don't think she'll last in the hardest content on the new tower that'll come out eventually and things like that. But I definitely think she's worth building up. Don't skip on her, and she's free. You're getting her just by doing the Voyage Memento. And that brings me to maybe one of the most fun characters I've had, since this game has come out, and that is Rawia. And I slept on her at first. I didn't build her right away. She, again, it's one of those characters that I don't think in the long haul is going to be sitting on the top tier, tier list or anything like that, but absolutely serviceable, absolutely has good mechanics. She has great mobility, via a charge move, things like that. And she's just a fun character to experience is how I would say it. So her kit revolves around, basically drinking and becoming tipsy. And when she's tipsy, she gets more crit and decreases damage taken. But then you pair that with her abilities and you can do things like, be a few blocks away out of range of a character, use your Gale Breach to get into them, which then converts into another move, drop a massive bit of damage on the character, and a lot of times it'll crit, and just you're sliding up and doing a lot of damage. And it's just fun to watch because then she'll sit there and take a drink of her pint. And I like the skill because it also pulls out those little dancers. And so when she's on the field, she's just fun. And it helps that from a breaker perspective, obviously she counters, I believe it's the Guardians, and you're going to need that on your team. And so until we're further along, you've got other breakers that outclass her damage. She's got the mobility. She's got, abilities to heal herself a bit with that drinking. And she's just fun to watch. When she does this move here, this kick move, I think I still laugh. And I've probably seen it 100 times now. Someone walks up and hits her and she's just like, that's cool. Boom, boots them in the face down the stage. And especially when that ends up knocking them off of a tile, I think it's the funniest thing. My only real complaint about her is, and it's probably because I'm overextending with this Gale Breach, is there are times where she goes out, does her thing, and then she's playing catch up to my team. And so for a couple turns, she may not be in melee range to do her job. And I'm not sure why I struggle with her more than any other character with that, but it is the one call out that I'll put on her character. But otherwise, love playing her. The final of the bunch is going to be Fakel. I actually haven't built him yet. So I've leveled him for the sake of Voyage Memento stuff, but I haven't put any other resources into him. That said, I do want to build him soon, and I want to build him as an alert character just for fun. He's another one where I think you're just going to have other damage dealers that can outclass him over time. Probably already out there anyways. He has the potential to do a lot of damage if he's debuffing a lot or if the enemy's really debuffed. But I think he'll look fun doing alert skills, especially because I just pulled a specific trinket, this one here, that causes alert to be triggered when a skill is used by an enemy within that alert box, not just for walking in. And so this is going to be a fun build for me. Not super, crazy damage meta build. I don't think at this stage of the game in the first month or if your first few months of playing, he's a bad pick, especially again because he's free via Voyage Memento. He just hasn't really made the cut for my roster in particular. And so those are our Sword of Convallaria folks. So aside from them, I've got about really 1.5 rows left of characters I want to talk about. All right, so next up, let's talk about Magnus. Now, Magnus is not a free-to-play character. You do not get him in the Voyage Memento. He's someone I pulled when I was pulling for Edda, which is great because he was actually on one of my top lists of what I personally wanted. He has become the tank that I go to if I don't need Mytha's blocking. So first of all, Magnus excels at looking freaking incredible. Check out that artwork, okay? He's an older gentleman like myself. He's got the gray in the beard, and he's got one of my favorite things, which is a giant axe. So, you put him on the field, and he just looks the part. And so, frankly, play him for that reason alone. But if you want something to sell you even further, his traits basically just decreases the attack and defense of things around him. 3 tiles, that's a good amount of space, and gives him a little bit extra attack based on his defense when he attacks. Beyond that, what he is doing is just reducing the effectiveness of things near him. So he has this trait, and I'll pull it up here, where when an enemy is slain within a couple of tiles, you inflict attack 2 down on enemies, and you give your team damage 2 up. So they get weaker, you get stronger. And what's cool is this is always triggered before Mountain Breaker. Mountain Breaker is this move right here, which is a good amount of damage. It's 150%. When the target's injured, it gives Isolate, which makes them immune to their aura effects, so it's decreasing the effectiveness of those enemies. And if he kills with it, he gets 2 energy back. And so basically you show up, you're already making them hit 4 less, and you're strengthening your party, and you further do this as you attack enemies. So for standing around, he's just basically making people, again, less effective. He also has a good aura. So the aura is for Fortitude classes like Gloria, so if you have her, this is a good pairing. And what he does is the standard 10% attack up, defense down, and decreases damage by 10% when you're healthy. But what I really like is it makes them immune to injured. Injured is when you're 70% or less on health, and you would typically do less damage and take more damage. He's making you immune to that. So rather than getting below a certain threshold of health and then taking more damage, you just can ignore that. And so that as an aura for Fortitude is a really cool skill. And you'll see here quite a few people have it. Some of these people you might have. You'll notice for me, I have Magnus, I have Nightingale, I have Gloria, and I have Abyss commonly in my team. So he's feeding that to 4 people. I also occasionally bring Suppression. And so, he's just a good feeder for that aura for a lot of people. And there's other people you may have like the Italian. Momo's a top pick for me eventually. And so just a good group of people that can use that particular aura. I like him. I think he does a lot of good things for a team by, again, helping reduce damage that you have taken incoming. And again, just the coolest looking design. Love this character. So if you get him, again, I'm going to tell you to build him. Will there be other tanks later on in the meta that are better? Yes, absolutely there will be. But I still think he'll have uses, and I still think he's a really good Guardian character. Then moving on from there, I want to talk about 2, what I like to say, replacement meta units. These ones, first of all, Crimson Falcon, you will get at 5 stars by doing the Voyage Memento. So this character we are all going to get for free. And to me, this is like Cole's younger sister. It's another assassin class, or I guess we call him Seeker, and just has really good damage output. So you've got a good chance to crit on enemies. You've got this flurry of stabs, just like Cole does. You've got, some debuff potential depending on which way you build her. And it's just another good kind of hit and run type of a character. And if you haven't used her and you need a Seeker, this is the character you go to for now. Again, if you have stronger Seekers that you got from the gacha system, absolutely use them. But there's times that I actually bring Crimson and I bring Cole when I need that kind of dual mobility, or if I'm in maps with a lot of red units, they go through and kind of clean them up. So a great character that we're all going to get for 5 stars for free, you really cannot complain about this particular character. She is my Cole replacement. On the other side, only because she's a mage, my Beryl replacement right now is Flame Sorceress. Beryl is going to be way better, top class, pretty much always. But when you don't have Beryl like I don't, you're going to need some times with mages. And I have found Flame Sorceress to really fit that mold. What I love about this character and the way that I built her is to be more of a single damage powerhouse. She inflicts Scorch on so many of her different moves. So for example, the basic attack I have here, Fireball, etc. And then she has this great ability called Pyroblast, which on its own would do 170% damage, which is great. But when the target has Scorch, guess what? She does more, and it's 200%. And in particular, you're going to find use for her on the first weapon trial boss. You can get that Scorch going, and you can then launch this Pyroblast and just do really, really good damage. Especially when you start rolling in all your other characters and your buffs and things like that. What's also nice is her trait will give Scorch to a random enemy around her after her churn. And then I also use Blazing, which is a passive that gives Scorch on a random injured enemy within a certain radius that lasts for a couple turns. You could build her as an AoE type character if you wanted to. I just personally chose to go more single target focused. And so for my mage distance needs, this is my Beryl replacement. But frankly, even if I had Beryl, I'd probably still have use for her for that Scorch mechanic alone. You go into a tower, there's often times that you want to do that kind of percent-based damage on an enemy, and a Scorch is a great way to do that. Great unit. Use her in tower. Again, you can use her in weapon trial 1, and just solid investment when you have her, if you have her. And then my last couple here are my situational use only. So I have Papal Ice Priest, I have Suppression, and I have Outlaw Crossbowman. These 3 I only use in certain scenarios. Papal Ice Priest, for me, is a zoner. He is keeping characters from getting too close to you. The ice tiles will cause enemies to shorten how many movement tiles they can utilize. So if you have something that can, typically travel pretty far, he's a good character to slow them down. This is particularly useful in tower, as is this ability right here, Icy Blast. There's quite a few maps where you can get a couple characters to kind of walk up to you. Maybe you have a tank in the way or whatever, and you can have them come around, hit Icy Blast, and knock over multiple off of a ledge, because it does this in this kind of mini 2x3 AoE. And so he's good at clearing things like that. And because he's leaving ice tiles, you can then move back away, using perhaps the move command, and create distance and a place where they have trouble crossing. And so definitely not my, top damage dealer, but certainly a versatile character that is good at controlling how far units can come into you. So a good one to build, but not one I would say you're building for like primary damage dealing. And you're probably not going to pull them out on every map unless you just love the character for whatever reason. You're going to use them when you need to control, and that's perfectly fine. They're just not going to be on every single map. Same thing with Outlaw Crossbowman. For a bronze unit, a common unit, this guy should be like a legendary. So first of all, he has that armory rotor, just like the weapon eroder that Nightingale has, which does that percent-based damage and throws a couple debuffs on the enemy. He has armor piercing shot just as part of his kit, which does shield break, which is useful. I think it's in Weapon Trial 3, the one where the boss gets the big purple shield on him and you want to break that, before he goes again. So he gets that move. And then within his kit, and I'm going to build him out completely soon, he gets a way to do infection. So infection again is another dot type mechanic, and it can stack up and get, heavier and heavier. And so this guy is like the king of the tower. Even without him built, I have had him in my tower teams. It seems crazy to have a rank 1, common class going along the tower ride, but you have no idea how good these, piercing damage moves can be in situations like that where you want to hit and run. So a great unit, again, I'm actually going to bring this common all the way for the total joyride over time, mainly because of this move here, and that shield breaker. And he's also, again, been featured within my, own weapon trials and stuff like that. So right now, ignore his gear. I just toss stuff on people. I switch gear out as I need to. But a unit that I think you should look at, common unit, you're going to get him, I'm sure, and just have fun with him. He's a good unit. The other one over here is Suppression. Suppression is a magic tank, and I won't go too much into his kit, but effectively, if you need to really tank magic damage, such as one of the weapon trials, I forget which one, he's a good one to do that. I've not seen much use for him in like a lot of Fool's Journey or anything like that. And so I would put him with the Papal Ice Priest, to where when you need him, great at his job. Absolutely phenomenal at his job. You're just not going to need him a lot. Now, maybe other content will come along, maybe the other tower, things like that, where you do want a magic tank. And if you hit that, he's going to be the one to go to, at least as of my roster right now. So again, a good unit, very cool design. I love this design. Just not one that has a reason to be in my team 99% of the time, but the 1% of the time that he does, he is worth having in there. And the only other character I'll mention here is Darklight Fire Priest. If you have Flame Sorceress, build her. I built him because I didn't have her at first. And so he's kind of gone to the bench ever since then. He's not terrible. He's another fire character, has a lot of the same moves. I actually made him more AoE. But just in comparison, her trait is just that much better. She's just a better damage dealer all around. And so between the two, I would pick Flame Sorceress every single time. And sadly, that means he's really hit the bench. And that's it. Those are the units I have been really focused on in month 1. Some units I really think you should build if you have them. And there's a couple I'm going to be building soon. For example, Ballista happens to be featured, or one of the featured characters in the new event, so that's convenient for me. He's a solid unit, by the way. I won't go into him on this video, but one that you should build for range damage. And, I'm looking forward to seeing what the next month brings, because I'll start having more resources to build more and more of these characters to do things like the tower, or the take into weapon trials and do those higher stages of weapon trials and such. And yes, I'll keep trying to pull certain legendaries. So there you have it. Those are units I have been using this first month within the game, the ones I enjoy, the ones I maybe don't like as much. There's other ones I'll build eventually, like Ballista. It's actually in our event currently, if you're watching this during the Scorched Earth event, I think it's called. And I'm just really having a blast. Will I pull other legendaries? Absolutely. But I'm not in the position to pity every single legendary that comes out. Far from it, as a matter of fact. And so I hope that this is giving you a, I guess, more common example of an account and how you can utilize units that you likely have as free to play. Now, obviously our legendaries might be different, but there's so many times I have brought either a all non-legendary team, for example in Tower, or feature predominantly non-legendary teams. Like I'm pretty much always going to bring Gloria, but I'll have like Gloria with Angel, I don't know, Abyss, Nightingale, and Flame Sorceress or something like that, right? And these are units that you're likely to have, especially if they came from Voyage Memento. Or I'll sub them out for, epic units like Papal Priest and stuff like that when I need that extra control. So look, I really love that they have so much versatility and usability in their non-legendary SSR tier units. I think a lot of people have discovered just how strong these other characters are. And I hope what I've shown you today gives you some inspiration on, perhaps some units you saw on your roster but didn't think to build, or maybe didn't think to build in specific ways. And hey, I would love to hear from you in the comments. What are your favorite units you've been using, legendary or not, right? What are the surprises that came out for you on these characters? What are the ones that really disappointed you? Maybe you have Nurgle like I do and you're like, God, that guy is not good. And are there characters that you think I should build that I'm sleeping on? I do stay up to date on the content as much as I can, but it doesn't mean I've examined absolutely every single facet. Or maybe you found a cool trick to use on a certain character that I just overlooked. And while you're down there, do me a favor and drop that like and subscribe. I'm very close to that 1,000 subscriber mark, and I put a poll out there on what I should do once I hit that on our next live stream for it. So would love to hear your voice on that as well. So jump into the community tabs to see that. And with that, thank you for spending time with me today. I really do appreciate the time you spend watching these videos. I hope you're getting something useful out of them, and I'll see you on the next one.